Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. Sorry for the late start. Just making sure everything is working properly here. And then we'll go ahead and dive right in. And hopefully you're not hearing too much background noise. As normal, we do record these trainings, so they'll be here on the YouTube channel. The training does take about an hour and a half, so it's usually convenient for people to come back when they have more time. Also, since we do record it, you can share the link with other staff members who may need to be admins on the account. Just as a heads up, we will not have our training next Tuesday. That would be December 27th. But then we'll return on the following Tuesday after the new year. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. So we have our dash login page, dash.virtualpbx.com. If you're an admin, I do recommend bookmarking the page just to make it easier to get here in the future. To get logged in, we need 3 pieces of information. The first and foremost is your email address. That's actually your unique identifier. So you want to make sure that is in there correctly. One thing to keep in mind, as far as the system is concerned, it wants your email address in all lowercase letters. There have been times where we've had customers whose browsers, for whatever reasons, capitalize the first letter of their email address, and that causes a login error. Your password should have been emailed to you. And then lastly, we need the account name, which is typically your business name or organization name. Now, if for some reason you don't have that, like the email wasn't never sent to you, down here at the bottom, we have the forgot your info link, right? Just above the sign-in bar. You click on that, still need your email address. And then we need either the account name, right? So business name, or a phone number on the account. That's a phone number your customers call to reach you. You click on reset password. The system will then send you an email with a link that logs you in temporarily. That then lets you change your password. It logs you back out. You then type in your password here, and then you can click on the remember me. And then click on sign in. Now, I'm using a test account, so I log into this regularly. So by default, the system's taking me right to my dashboard page, right? This is to give me a quick snapshot of my system as it currently stands. If it's your first time logging in, the system instead takes you to your user account page. You can always get there by clicking at your name on the top right of the screen. And here we are on my account page. This is where I would change my password if I'm so inclined. Now, if I need to change someone else's password, I'd go back to that dashboard page under users and use that to change someone else's password. Now, as an admin, I also have access to the account settings here on the left. Generally, not much is changed here other than maybe the time zone and language, right? Time zone to make sure you're in the correct time zone for your organization. If you need to change the account name, you actually need to send an email into our billing team. That's billing@virtualpbx.com. And that's mostly because they need to make sure a number of different things all have your name change reflected, so everything's tied together properly. Also on your accounts on the left-hand side, you'll have a billing section. This right now will take you to a link to get a code to get access to Stripe to change your billing information. Once you're done here, go ahead and hit the close box. Then you'll be here on the dashboard. Now, if you're at the top, again, you have your name. You can click on that, get to your account page information. To the right of your name, for most of you, you will have a D&D toggle for do not disturb, right? You can click on it and you're not taking calls. Right, click on it again, calls will come into you normally. The reason I don't have that toggle here on my user is part of an ACD queue, right? Automatic call distribution. It's a call center feature. Those two features don't work well together. So once I was assigned to the queues, the D&D toggle was removed. That's an automatic thing. Then we have a little question mark icon, right? Help icon. It has 3 fields all the time. So first, chat with us. This opens up a chat window at the bottom right, so you can speak to our support staff to walk you through a feature. Learn more. This will open up a new tab and take you to our support guides, screenshots, instructions on the various features. The online store opens a new tab, takes you to store.virtualpbx.com, where you can order things like a VoIP phone or a router, etc. Now there is a fourth square here, and what can show up here is the web phone. It shows up after you've added a web phone to your user. After you've added it to your user, usually by the next time you log in, the web phone link will show up here. This will then open up a new tab to take you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. That allows you to use Chrome or Firefox to make and receive calls on and the Chrome or Firefox on a computer, not the mobile versions. But then you can use those browsers to make and receive calls. Up here, we got the 3 horizontal line icon or the menu icon. Some of our staff also refer to it as the hamburger icon. This will take you to other dash features. Now, we'll primarily be here in the dashboard for the vast majority of the training, but we will touch on these other areas. And then we have the logout icon. Here in the center, we have total users, right? These are people on my account who make and receive calls. So majority of our plans are based on a per user basis, right? The more users you add, the higher your bill. So something to keep in mind. Moving down, I have total devices. I have 37 different kinds of devices on my account, and they're broken down into little buckets. Soft phone, this is a software application that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls, right? So it's a VoIP phone. And I have 18 of them on this account. Now, that includes the VirtualPBX soft phone as well as third-party soft phones. Then we have the SIP phone. This is a piece of hardware, right? So it's a physical phone, typically connects via Ethernet to get to your internet, and then you use that to make and receive your calls. So this would be like a Cisco phone, a Yealink, or Polycom. Those are the 3 most that our customers make use of. Next item here is cell phone. Most of us know what that is. And then I have the web phone. This is that Chrome or Firefox on a computer to make and receive calls. I have unregistered devices, saying I have 2, and that's in relation to my SIP phones. Right? So 2 of my physical phones are not registered. And that just means they're probably not plugged in. Or there could be an internet issue or a router setting, right? A network issue. I have total numbers. I have 33 phone numbers on the account. And then a breakdown here of assigned and spare numbers. So assigned number means I'm using it, right? Someone can call those numbers and speak to someone or leave a voicemail, join a conference, send a fax, etc. Spare number counts towards my allotment of numbers on my plan, but I'm not currently using it, right? So it could be I'm about to expand to a new market that has a different area code, so I got the number ahead of time, so that way I can start producing my marketing materials for that location. Likewise, it could also be you had a special promotion running, that promotion ended, so then you took the number and put it in spare, so that way you're not getting calls on a promotion that's no longer valid. Next breakdown here, I have USDID and US toll-free. US toll-free is actually US Canada toll-free, right? So 800 number, 888, all the way down to 833. USDID, that just means a US local number, right? So number in Los Angeles, California, or a number, say, in Dallas, Texas, right? Those are both would be USDIDs. You can have international numbers on your account if you would like. You would want to email our porting team, that's PORTING at virtualpbx.com. They need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a number in. They'll verify for you if we can get a number or not in that particular region, and if there are any additional requirements, right? Usually documentation of some type that varies from country to country. Conference bridges, I have 6 of them right down here. And that just means I've enabled 6 of my users to moderate or host a conference. Up here to the right, we got my main number block up here. These, 4 phone numbers, they all behave the same way, right? So they're all going to the same location. They're all playing the same main greeting. Then I have my conference room number. You can have multiple conference room numbers if you want, but this is the number everyone dials to reach the conference rooms, right? Whether they're my staff members, my vendors, or my clients, they all dial this number, then enter conference room number, then a PIN number. Fax box number, you can have one main fax box number, and this is your inbound fax number. All right, company directory, this downloads a CSV file to your device. It will have all your users with their names, their extension numbers, and their primary devices. The soft phone directory, this is for use specifically with the desktop versions of the VirtualPBX soft phone app. Right? So on Windows or Mac OS, you would download this file and then upload it to the VirtualPBX soft phone on those platforms. And then you'll be able to see the status of the other VirtualPBX soft phones in your company, right? So if my coworker Mike only has a soft phone, right, he and I could tell if which of us is on a phone, right? So that way I can know, oh, I can call him right now, so we can talk about a particular issue, right? Now, if my coworker Mike instead has a Yealink phone and the soft phone, right, I could only tell that if he's using the soft phone, right? If he's on a call on the Yealink phone, there's no way for me to know that. All right, store discount code. Just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount code for use within the store.virtualpbx.com site. So you can save you a little money. And then we have the account realm. Every account has its own account realm. This is used in a couple things. One, it's used as one of the pieces of information to program a third-party soft phone. It's also used for faxing out. So on Dash, to fax out, you actually don't have to log into your Dash account. You just need to create an email. So use the email address that you use to log in for your user. In the to field of that email that you're creating, but +1 area code and phone number, little @ symbol, and then the account realm. Then you just need to attach a PDF or TIFF, and then click send. Right. So when faxing out, the system looks at the to field, the from field, and the attachment. Only one attachment per email. And typically you want the largest fax I've been able to send out was 7 megabytes. Right. Going back up towards the top here, caller ID, this button just above the main numbers box. If you click on that, expands out. This is for your company caller ID. So this first pull down, which unfortunately doesn't work on my streaming software, this allows you to choose one of your main numbers. That becomes the default number for, say, your VoIP devices, and for a couple other features. Then you've got this field here, the company caller ID name or CNAME. This is optional, but in the box here to the right, you can enter up to 15 characters that includes spaces or special characters. So it's a hard limit of 15. And then the system wants you to enter your company company emergency information or E911. It wants a North American address. And then you click on Save Changes. Now, once you click on Save Changes, if you inputted information in the company caller ID name, that information will get transmitted to other carriers who support CNAME. It takes them approximately 3 business days to update their databases. But then this information gets transmitted as part of your outbound caller ID from any calls you make from your VoIP phones. A couple things to keep in mind about CNAME. Not every carrier supports CNAME. It's possible you can make an outbound call, and your call can route through a carrier that doesn't support it. That means your CNAME information doesn't reach your destination. Even if your call reaches, all the way through without any interruptions, that inbound carrier, they get to decide what shows up on the phones on their network, right? So they can accept the CNAME information we send. They can choose to look up the CNAME information on their own and use that information instead, or they can just simply say, no, we're not sending it through. We're only letting the phone number come through. And this is especially true with calling cell phones, right? The cell phone providers, they pretty much want to charge their subscribers to have the ability to have CNAME information show up on every call that comes to the cell phone. All right, hold music button. So Dash allows you to upload your own media files. It will accept and play back .wav, right, .wav, .mp3 files. You want to make sure they're recorded in mono, not in stereo, and that they're under 1 megabyte. But you would click upload, find the file on your computer, click the up arrow icon. Once it finishes uploading, then you would click on Save Changes. And that would become the music on hold for all of your users. Now, just so we're clear, on Dash, when they say music on hold, what that means is a call has come into your system, reached one of your staff members. The staff member has picked up, has started speaking with the other person, and then they press hold on their VoIP phone. That's when the music on hold file will play. Right. So hours is actually part of main number. So let's just go to main number and work our way down. Right. First up, we have main company numbers. Right. Shows all your main numbers on the account. If you decide you no longer want to use a number, you would click unassign next to it. And now it's no longer a main number. Now, it's still a number on your account, right? It's just a spare number now. So that means you can reuse it someplace else, right? So you can instead assign it to a user or to a group. Now, if you want to add numbers, that's down here. You have your choice from add from spare or by numbers. So add from spare, that means you're using a number, right? It's already on your account and you're just gonna assign it to whoever you want, right? You would just click on the box and then click on add selected, and then it would show up here. By numbers is how you add new numbers to your account. You have your options of local and toll-free. So toll-free, you choose the toll-free prefix you want to work with. You click on search, and then the system will list a bunch of phone numbers available to you. And if you scroll down, it will continue to expand until it runs out. You click add any number you like. You can add multiple at once if you want. Right? It shows you the number of your cart, the phone number you have. You can trash it, meaning you don't like it after all. But once you're satisfied with the numbers, click on Buy Numbers, and then the system will add it to your account. Now, this list of numbers is dynamic. That means you're actually competing with other people in real time. So you wouldn't want to add a number to your cart, get called into a meeting, and then come back like an hour later and try to finish buying it. It may not actually be there. Local numbers, you need to know the area code. So we'll do 310 and you do a search. Now, any area code, including the toll-free prefixes, you could get this message, right? Which is basically saying that there's no numbers currently available in that area code, right? That means the area code is what is referred to as exhausted, just no readily available numbers. Now, we could try what's called a back order, which basically means, hey, when a number in this area code becomes available, we want to try to get it. The downside of that is we have no idea when one will become available, right? We're waiting on someone to give up their phone number. So what's advised to do is look up what's called an overlay area code, right? So 310 is in Los Angeles. So I would do a Google search for 310 overlay, and that would tell me that 424 is the overlay area code, right? And that just means 310 and 424, they cover the same geographic area, right? So they have to do 10-digit dialing. But here you see there's plenty of numbers available in 424, and I can just click add just like before, click on buy numbers. Now it's adding it to my account. And there you see it. Now there's a little gear icon here. So here you can update the caller ID, right? So you can update the outbound CNAM information. Probably more useful is turning on the inbound CNAM, right? So that way you can your staff members will see the name associated with the people who are calling into your system. E911, you can set up the E911 address for each phone number. This then allows you to assign the phone number to individual VoIP phones for the purposes of E911, right? So that way someone picks up a VoIP phone, dials 911, the correct address is transmitted to emergency services, right? Versus your corporate headquarters. Prepend is a VoIP phone feature. You can add text in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones, right? Gives them a heads up about what the call might be about. and then you would click on Save Changes. Just going to go ahead and unassign that number. All right, next up, we have office hour strategy. By default, you start off on 24-hour open office, meaning, hey, you're taking calls all the time. If you choose custom office hours, then for each day of the week that you're open, you put a check mark. And then you set your open hours in 24-hour or military time in these pull-down boxes. Down here, if your system if you want your system to close down during lunch, right, you can put a check mark here, and then you set your lunch hours in 24-hour or military time. And then when you're done, click on Save Changes. All right, any changes, go ahead, click on Save Changes. Next up, we have office holidays. So if you're closed for holidays, click on the little check mark here. And then over here to the right, click on Add Holiday. You have your options here, single day, date range, and advanced. So single day, like Christmas or New Year's Eve, you give it a name, select the month and the date, click on Save Changes. All right. Date range, like I have here for Xmas break, give it a name, start date, end date, save changes. Now, as a precaution, we recommend against having a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, just because there is no year indicator. And then advanced, just like I have up here for Thanksgiving, give it a name, choose the month, choose 1st through 5th or last, and then the day of the week. And then click on Save Changes. Likewise, if you want to get rid of a holiday, you click on the little trash can icon here, click on Confirm, and then click on Save Changes. All right, next up, we have incoming call handling. Now, this is for all of your main numbers. Then you have these subtabs for your open hours, your after hours, and your holidays, right? If I had said we're closed for lunch, there would be a lunch tab. Now, in general, these first 3 options will always be there, right? This 4th option only shows up in a couple of circumstances. And those circumstances are if our services team created what's called a custom call flow or advanced call flow for you, right? So you had a custom configuration of some sort. Or if your account includes multiple auto attendants and you made one of those auto attendants available in main menu, or one or more, right? Then this option would show up here as well. It's typically not used. So first up, calls come in, then they're going to my virtual receptionist. This is a link here, which will open up. And you see here you have your menu options, your greeting options, and some settings, right? So your main menu, right? This is where you click on Add a Route to create your menu options, right? 1 for sales, 2 for support, right? Clicking on Add a Route creates a new row. The first pull down allows you to select 0 through 9, as well as the star key, and then there's also the default action. The second pull down is where do you want that menu option to go? Smart PBX directory, right? The dial by name directory or user directory. Users, meaning you want it to go to a specific person. It will ring their devices and get to their voicemail box if they don't pick up. Call queues, this would be an add-on feature. So not every account will have this, but for call center purposes. So you can have a menu option go to, like if you called us, for example, you pressed option 2, that would take you to our tech support queue. Groups, these are an included feature, so it's possible every account has these. Departments, right? A group of people who answer the call. Groups have some fairly simple routing options, whereas queues have more advanced routing options, so they're related. But again, many companies can get away with groups rather than queues. You can have a menu option go to a specific device, right? Meaning it's going to a specific phone. This isn't always recommended because, say, if you send a call to a VoIP phone, most VoIP phones don't have their own built-in voicemail or answering machine. So you're relying on the person to wait until someone answers or they just hang up. You have a menu option go to a specific voicemail box, right? Press 0 to leave a message, right? I press 0, you choose the voicemail box it goes to. And lastly, you have the option to have it play a media file. Not always recommended, but this is where like you could have them press a menu option to hear like hours of operation or directions. And then the options for advanced call flows. This is primarily if you're making use of submenuing. So like I have like this system is set up right now, right? Press 1 to go for Chinese and press 2 for Spanish. These are secondary auto attendants. So and secondary auto attendants is a plan specific feature. But this would then, if you pressed 1 to get to Chinese, right, you would hear a greeting in Chinese. And then the menu options would go to Chinese speaking staff members, right? Similar for Spanish, right? You probably would have one for English too. Or not, depends on your business. All right, over here on the right, we have our greeting options. First up is text to speech. You type in the greeting that you want the system to say, you click update, save, and save changes. Now, this greeting, right, that you type in here, you're restricted up to 250 characters, not words, characters. It does not count spaces. I have gotten up to a 300 character greeting to work, but 250 works consistently. This isn't a computerized or robotic voice. So generally speaking, something I recommend for if you're just getting started off, whether it's a startup company or you've never used a PBX system before, so you're just trying to figure things out, easy way to get started. Now, there is a limitation in the fact that you don't get to name the file yourself. The system names it for you. So since we're in my main open hours, the system will name this the main open hours menu TTS for text to speech. If I edit this file that's here, I click update, save, and save changes. Now I'm going to have 2 files that are called main open hours menu TTS. And that can be a problem for any pull down options I have related to the greetings. So now I won't know which one is which. You can upload your own file, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Click on choose file to find the file on your device. Click update, save, and save changes. You can choose from an existing recording. And you see here, I have a main open hours menu TTS. This pull down will show all your media files, whether they're a main greeting, a voicemail greeting, or hold music. So in general, when you have an opportunity to name files, you want to name it something that you can recognize. And you can always go to the greetings tab to rename files, including main open hours menu TTS. You can record it over the phone. Now the system says pick up a phone registered on this account. What that really is saying is pick up a VoIP phone on the account. All right, you would then dial your main number and enter this PIN number. So if you just signed up with us, if you call your main number right off the drop, right, you'll hear the greeting for this menu has not been recorded yet. And then it will prompt you to enter the PIN number. You enter the PIN number, and as long as you're on a VoIP phone, it will then walk you through recording a greeting over the phone. Now, a couple things can happen. One, let's say you don't have VoIP phones, but you still want to record it over the phone. Then what you do is under settings, come down to this one here where it says allow outside recording, turn this on. Now you can call into your system with a cell phone or a landline and change your main greeting over the phone, right? The reason that's off by default is as a security feature, right? If you're using it from a VoIP phone on the account, that means it's a phone within the system, right? So the system knows it's safe, right? Once you turn allow outside recording on, any phone can call in. Now, when you call in, you still need to enter in this PIN number, right? So odds are you would have to be an admin to know this information. The other thing to keep in mind as we're close to Christmas here, if you already have a greeting in place, you can enter this PIN number and the system will still walk you through recording a greeting over the phone. However, you're not able to change the name of the file, right? So what happens is your main greeting that you've had for the majority of the year is playing. You call in, you enter the PIN number, and you record a new greeting for Christmas. You click save, you move on. After New Year's comes back, right? You like, okay, I want to put my original greeting that I had in place that I used for most of the year. That file is gone. The file name is still the same, right? But now when you listen to it, it's your holiday greeting, right? So when you call in, when you have a greeting in place and you call in, you're replacing the existing greeting with new content. So something to be aware of. Professional recording services, when you click order, this will open a new tab and take you to Snap Recordings. They do currently have a holiday special going on. This is where you can order a greeting, done by professional voice actors or actresses. They have different versions of English and Spanish and French, multilingual. They have hold music options. They have their own different packages. They bill you directly via credit card. They email you the file. So then you would come back here and then upload your own file. All right. Now we have number of retries on missed dial. This is how many times your inbound caller can make a mistake, right? They automatically get one attempt by default. So anything you add here, right? So in this case, adding 2 attempts, meaning my inbound caller has 3 total tries to get a correct menu option or extension number. Dialing timeout is just how much time the system listens for an additional button press. So let's say someone calls in and they hear the greeting and they press 5, right? The system waits for 5 seconds, right? Because I have 5 digits here, or the 5 integer there. So after 5 seconds, it says, oh, they mean menu option 5. Well, that's not a valid option. And if there's no extension number 5, the system then plays a greeting again, right, and gives that caller another option, another try. Person hits 7, still not a valid option. System waits 5 seconds, plays the greeting a 3rd time, right, gives them their last attempt. If they click 8, right, not a valid option, the system would now send them to my default action. If I remove the default action, right, so if I don't have a default action and they keep entering an option, the system at this point would say, we did not recognize your entry, and say goodbye and end the call. All right, we covered this. Next up, allow dialing extensions. By default, this is on. And all that means is when a caller comes into your main number and they enter an extension number, as long as that's a valid extension number, the system will transfer the call. If I turn this off, that means my inbound caller, they can only press a menu option. They cannot enter anything else. The system will treat it as an invalid option. And then we have the suppress the playing of invalid entry. So by default, right, the system tells the inbound caller that the system didn't recognize the entry, and then it says goodbye. If you don't want the system to say that, you click this on. So now when the inbound caller calls in and they keep messing up, the system doesn't say anything about invalid entry. So if you did have a default action, at that point on that last attempt, the system would automatically transfer them to the default action. Set that back to default. All right, so any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or your settings, you need to click save here, and then you're taken back to incoming call handling, and you need to click save changes here. Right, so you're clicking save twice. After hours, calls here, I'm being offered to my front desk group, right? So group of staff members. If they're not able to pick up, it goes to my virtual receptionist. So this is what we would call our live operator answer. It's designed to give someone or multiple people a chance to answer the call first. If they're not able to, then the caller gets sent to my virtual receptionist. Now this is a pull down, so I can select queues, users, groups, etc. You can even select the device. Those are the most common ones chosen, right? And then the virtual receptionist. Now this is my after hours, so I have a default or a different setup here, right? So I have a default action, go into a specific device. I would have a different greeting in play. Right? In this case, it's just a silence file. And I can have different settings here as well. Third option, this is fairly standard. Now, this pull down, again, you can select users, groups, queues, specific device. You can even have a media file play, right? Saying, hey, we're closed for the holidays, kind of thing. But the last one here, at the very, very bottom, right? Skip to voicemail, where basically call comes in and goes to the voicemail box I designated. Basically say, hey, leave a message. And then this fourth option is to send callers to one of your secondary attendants or advanced call flows. Main conference number. So you can have multiple conference numbers. So you have the option here to add from spare or by numbers. You also have the option here for a custom greeting. This is a text-to-speech greeting, so 250 character limit. Click enable, type in what you want the system to say. Now, even if I leave this alone, right, so I leave it disabled, when you call your conference number, the system still says, welcome to the conference, and then prompts the caller to enter in the conference room number and the PIN number. The main fax box number, you can only have the one number. That's why I don't have the options to add more. And then we have the option here to edit fax box. So first up, we have the inbound fax notification email, right? So this email address gets an email every time a fax comes through to the system, right? So they get an email, it has a date, the time, phone numbers involved, and then a PDF attachment of the fax. Now, if someone calls your main fax box number, hears fax tones and hangs up, this person still gets an email saying that there was a failed inbound fax attempt. It'll have the date, the time, phone numbers involved. It sometimes has a caller ID information, right? So if you get that email and it says wireless caller, you know that was a misdial. Now, if it's a number you recognize or you were expecting a fax from, you probably want to contact that other party to find out if, what happened on their side. The email permissions. This is for outbound faxing. It's designed to put in your company email domain, so that way everyone at your organization can send a fax out, even if they're not a Dash user, right? They just need the proper format, that +1 area code and phone number, little @ symbol, and then the account realm. Then attach a PDF or TIFF. All right, auto attendance. This is a plan-specific feature, means it's available on some plans and not others. This allows you to create secondary attendance, auto attendance, excuse me. A couple use cases. The first I've already kind of talked about, which is submenuing, right? That 1 for English, 2 for Spanish kind of scenario. The other would be if you have multiple businesses, right? And those other businesses, they have their own phone number or phone numbers, and they have their own main greeting. But you can have the same staff member among your staff people among your multiple business answer calls for these different businesses, right? Basically, it's so you can have, that way you don't have to have multiple accounts with us, right? You just have one account. It makes it easier from a billing perspective. Up here at the top, you click on Add Attendant. You give it a name and an extension number. The extension number is not something your customers necessarily would know. It's useful for your staff in case they need to transfer a caller to one of the other auto attendants. And then you click on Create Attendant. Once an attendant is created, you can click on its name here. It defaults to being unavailable in main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant, right? Designed to work on its own. You can click on this to make it available in main menu, meaning it's a submenu option, right? So that's what you would do this for any language-based auto attendant, right? English, Spanish, French, etc. And then you would click on Save Changes. Auto attendants can have their own phone numbers. Again, you would do this especially for auto attendants that are designed to be your secondary businesses. You can either add from spare or buy new numbers. All right, you have the gear icon here, so you can update caller ID and E911 and prepend. All right, click on Save Changes. Now, the attendants had to have an extension that was part of the creation process. Then you have a little wrench icon here under Settings. You have open hours, after hours, and holidays, right? This information matches what you set up under main number, right? So your secondary auto attendants have to have the same hours of operation as your primary system. right? Or your main number. So if, for instance, you had one business that is a 24/7 operation, whereas your main system is only Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, you'd want to talk to our account services team, and they'll determine if it's still workable to have both accounts on the same, for both systems on the same account, which would probably require some kind of custom work, or if you need to have two separate accounts. Typically, right, they offer some kind of discount if you have to have multiple accounts because of that, but that's something they'll help you determine. Right, next up, devices. Shows all your devices on the account. When they're black like this, that means you've turned them off, right? Currently disabled. Doesn't mean, and that just means you might want to turn them on later. Red means it's unregistered. So it could be they're not logged in. It could be that there's an internet problem. We just don't know, right? It's just unregistered. Green means we can send a call to it. It's properly working. Up here at the top, you can click Add New Device. First up is SIP phone, right? This is that physical VoIP phone. You have these manufacturers to choose from. Some have a lot of models, right? Some only a few. But you basically need to find the make and model of the phone you want to work with. You need to give it a name, right? I usually say person's name phone or location phone, right? So Bob's phone or break room phone. And then we need the MAC address. This is typically a sticker on the back of the phone, or if the phone's plugged in, typically under status. You can find that information there. And then you enter this information. You click on Create Device. After you click on Create Device, you would go over to Users and add it to a user. And then the only other thing you'd want to do is click here on the wrench icon. After you've added it, under Advanced, go to Miscellaneous. And then where it says Allow Reprovision, click Unlock. And then Save Changes. Now, in terms of our dashboard, at that point, you're done. However, you need to log into the phone's web user interface, and basically you're giving the phone a URL to go to, right? It goes there, it gets a config file, it reboots a couple times. For the specifics of that, you want to go to our support pages, and you're looking for the document Auto Provisioning Phones. It's going to have screenshots from the various manufacturers and the proper syntax of that URL, so you know what to look for. In some cases, there are also some additional settings that they want you to verify. A cell phone and landline are the same, right? You give it a name, and then you put in the phone number, right? +1 area code and phone number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses. We'll go down here, right? So this is the proper format here, right? You gave it a name, +1 area code and number. I'm going to go over here to Advanced Options. This is the default setup for a cell phone or landline. Now, when a call comes in and we send it off to a cell phone or landline, right, the device will ring. When you pick up, the first thing you hear is, "This is a forwarded call. Please press 1." When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to take this call. And then connects the call to you. You speak to that person. Everything's fine. Now, that works when we're sending a call to a phone that's actually handled by a person. Let's say, for instance, you've contracted out with an automated answering service to handle your after-hours calls. Right? So that's not a person that's answering. It's actually like a computer. Well, a computer doesn't know when to press 1. Probably doesn't even know how to. Right? It's just there to pick up the phone and answer the call, and then route to something. Right? In that situation, you'd want to come here, right? So the answering service would have given you a phone number, say, send your calls to this phone number. You would then come here on your dash system, add new cell phone or landline, right? Do the +1 area code number, and then you want to click here where it says allow use of cell phone's voicemail. So now when we send a call to this phone number, when we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call. Right? There's no message about this is a forwarded call or about pressing 1. It's just we hear pickup tone, call connected. So if this is really your cell phone, right? If your cell phone voicemail picks up, right, that's a pickup tone. So we send the call through. So that means potentially if you put your personal cell phone number here, your inbound callers can end up on your personal cell phone's voicemail. Some people want that. Some people definitely do not. The other thing that can come up is the keep original caller ID, which is that second option here. And so by default, when calls come in, right, customer Mary is calling you, right? It gets routed to your cell phone. You see customer Mary's cell phone number. If you've been getting a lot of robodials, you might be, I'm just going to let this go, right? Maybe you reconnect with customer Mary, maybe not. If you uncheck this, now when customer Mary calls or any customer calls, it's not their phone number you see on your cell phone, it's your main number. All right, let's go back to the dashboard real quick. Right, whatever phone number you set up here, that's the phone number that shows up on your cell phone or landline. So hopefully you would recognize your business number and you'd be more willing to take the call. Soft phone. So on the system, on the device page, when you add a soft phone, you can only add a third-party soft phone. Right? So you're going to use XLite from Counterpath or some other soft phone. If you want to make use of the VirtualPBX soft phone app, you need to add that directly to the user, which we'll get to when we get to the users tab. But here, you would give it a name. You copy and paste the SIP username. Click on the SIP password box, so then you can copy and paste the SIP password. You do not want to change that. And then you want to copy and paste the realm. Click on Create Device. Those three pieces of information are what you use to provision or program that third-party soft phone. All right. Now, on a wrench icon for a physical phone, right? So like the Cisco phone, you can always change the name. Probably don't want to change the MAC address. Audio for physical phones should be the G711A or G711U. It's okay to have both. And then the other thing is for the emergency caller ID information, right? You can choose any of the phone numbers on your account, and then that's the address associated with that phone number. So if someone picks up this phone, dials 911, this is the information that gets transmitted to emergency services. So that's why you can do that for each phone number. On a soft phone, for the audio, you want to make sure it's Opus. Right, so that's if you're using software only. If you're using the soft phone credentials to program another piece of hardware, you would use G711 and G711U. And again, you have the option here for the emergency information. You can just select one of your phone numbers. All right, Greetings tab. This shows all the media files on your account. You have the name of the file, the source, which it can be upload, meaning you uploaded the file, TTS, text-to-speech, and recording means it was recorded over the phone. You can click on this little play icon here on this column, right, to listen to the file directly in your browser. If for some reason it doesn't play, then you have the download column here, so you can download the file to your device and use a media player on your device to listen to the file. Then you have the little wrench icon here, so you can change the name into something you would recognize or get rid of it if it's no longer valid. Up here at the top, you can upload new files if you're so inclined. Right, give it a name, find the file on your computer, right, mp3.wave, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte, and then click on Create Greeting. It will then upload it here. You're not able to assign it anywhere here. It's just letting you know that, hey, it's available. Next up, we have groups, right? Sometimes referred to as ring groups or hunt groups. Here at the top, you click on Add Group. You give it a name. You give it an extension number. After that, you would click and drag your staff members to the right that you want to be in the group, and then you click on Create a Group. Once a group is created, you can click on its name, so you can change the name at any time. And you also have this group call attempts. This is how many times this system tries to offer the call to your staff members who are in this group. There's little arrow icons to the far right, so you can increase it or decrease it as needed. Down here, you can remove a group completely. Otherwise, you would click on Save Changes. Then you have the members box, right? The second column here shows all your staff members in the group. and how the calls are being offered to them. This setup here is referred to as blast ringing or ring all, right? So I'm offering calls to everybody for the same amount of time, right? So call comes in, if Bob picks up, that's great. Second call comes in, right? Any of my staff members available can pick up. Now, Bob was probably still on that first call, so he might hear call waiting beep on his side, right? So he still technically offered the call, but since he's already on a call, one of these other staff members would need to pick up. Now, along top here, we have timestamps, and you can edit this last one here, which allows you to click distribute. So now in this scenario, right, it's always ringing its order. So Bob always gets the call first, right? Then Aaron, then Peter, etc. The downside here is if Bob takes the first call, right? Second call comes in and he's still on that call, he is still offered the call for 24 seconds before it's offered to Aaron, right? The system will not skip him just because he happens to be on a call, right? So this is okay if you have, you always want the call in this specific order, you don't have heavy call volume, right? The previous, that you probably want to do when you have, like it's your busy season, right? So you want to make sure calls aren't waiting on hold too long. Now, you can change the order, right? You can click on a person's name and drag them up to the top or drag Bob down to the bottom. Now, I haven't actually changed the order because Bob is starting at 0 seconds. But if I click distribute, now David's first. Down here, I can add additional users. So we can add JTest, right? Then I can click distribute again. And I also shorten the ring time because there's more people. And then here's the option to remove staff members. Any changes you make, you click on Save Changes. One thing to note for your group members, if they have multiple devices on their user, a call from the group will ring all of their devices. Right? There's a user feature called Follow Me Calling. Calls from the group ignore that feature completely. So something to be aware of. Now, your group users can accept calls from on cell phones, landlines, etc., VoIP phones. Groups can have their own phone numbers, right? You can add from spare or buy new numbers, like I have up on these other two groups. Now, these phone numbers are not main numbers or auto attendant numbers. So that means that these phone numbers do not have hours of operation, right? So the group numbers on a group or on a user for that matter, they're available 24/7. And then we have group features. First up is ring back. So when a call comes into the group, right, we send it to your staff members. When your staff member phones start to ring, right, that ringing sound is then piped back to your inbound caller. That's the ring back sound. If instead you want something else to play, you would enable the ring back setting, right? And then you would upload a media file, right? .wav, .mp3 recorded under 1 megabyte. So in this case, we have Don't Worry, Be Happy. Right? So call comes in, it's being offered to all of my users. You get that ringing sound coming back. Don't Worry, Be Happy is playing. If for some reason, let's say I'm only offering it to Bob, right? And Bob's phone will not give that ringing sound. Instead, let's say we're getting a busy tone. There's no ringback sound coming back, so the system just plays silence until it gets offered to the next phone or next device or next user. That does not happen very often. Next action, I think this is the most important group feature. When you enable it, saying, hey, if no one answers, what do you want to do with the call? You have a pull down here, so you can send it to a voicemail, you can send it to a specific user, another group, you can send it back to your main menu, an ACD queue, etc. And then you would click on to save changes. Allow call forwarding. If you enable this, that means your users can make use of call forwarding, i.e. they're not at their normal desk phones. Instead, they're taking calls, let's say, on their cell phone. And then you would click on Save Changes. Caller ID prepend. This is a VoIP phone feature. This allows you to add either text or numbers to add in front of the caller ID. It shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones. Again, the idea is to give your staff members a heads up about what kind of call they're getting. Numbers tab. starts you off on your numbers in use. This just shows you where your numbers are being used, right? Where they're assigned. Got a little gear icon here, so you can take the caller ID, the E911 or PPEND for any phone number. You can't unassign a number here or assign a number here. It's just showing you where it is. Got the spare numbers tab up here on the left. So these are the numbers I'm not currently using. If I wanted to remove numbers, right? Let's say I have too many phone numbers and I saw an overage on my bill. What you would want to do is click on the little check mark in front of the phone number. And then you see up here at the top, I have the option here to delete now. So I click on that. It says, are you sure? I confirm the deletion. And now those numbers are removed from my account. Right, so I just saved money on my next invoice. All right, by numbers here, you have local toll free, so you can add more spare numbers. Port starts the port process. You just give it a new port request. You give it a name. All right, test, local number. You choose local or toll free. Oops. Then it wants you to upload a copy of your bill. It needs to be dated within 30 days. Then ask you for things like the phone numbers you want to port, the address associated with those numbers. We'll ask you for the account number, right, from your current carrier, and the BTN, the billing telephone number. Typically, if you're only porting one number, the phone number you're porting, that's also your BTN. If you have multiple phone numbers, you'd want to double check with your current provider. Then you need to, or you have the opportunity to download a blank letter of agency or LOA, and then you can upload a completed and signed LOA. The LOA does need to be signed. You can't just type in your name twice or type in or print your name twice, right? It needs one of those. It says signature, right? It needs an actual signature. Now, that can be a digital signature, right? Just needs to look like a signature. Or you can print it out, sign it, and scan it back in. When you submit those documents to us, you'll get an automated email saying, hey, you've submitted a port request. Usually by the next 24 hours or the next business day, you will get an email from our porting team saying, yes, we are processing your request and letting you know what to expect of the port process. All right, so that second email lets you know someone actually saw your documents and is processing the request. Toll-free numbers typically take about 3 to 5 business days. Everything is correct. Local numbers have a wide degree of variance. It averages to about 2 to 3 weeks, but sometimes I've seen them as come or complete within a business day. Just really depends on the carriers involved. If there's any kind of error or rejection, one, we double check to make sure there wasn't a typo or if there isn't an alternate piece of information. So like for address information, right? If we see between your LO and your bill copy that there's a different address that we could use, we try the second address, right? But if we've tried everything or there's no errors that we can see, then we will let you know, send you an email saying, hey, this phone number got rejected. Here's the reason that we are given. We're not often given very specific information, right? So if like there's an address mismatch, we may not be told that, oh, the street number was wrong or the zip code was wrong. We're just sometimes told the address was wrong. In that case, you would want to go back to your current carrier and find out what the correct information should be. Users, this shows all your users on the account. The little people with the gray suit or gray person icon rather, that is your standard users. The people with the blue suit, these are your system admins, right? So they can do the things we've been talking about here. Up here at the top, you click on add user to add more people to your account and you fill out the form, right? First and last name, pretty self-explanatory. The email address used for login, this needs to be unique for each user, right? You cannot reuse an email address for multiple staff members. Then you create a password for them, and then you can enter the extension number, right? Now the system will suggest an extension number for you, but let's say, oh, I started a new department, and I'm starting out the first person with extension 7000. That's perfectly fine, as long as 7000 isn't already in use. By default, the system will automatically create a voicemail box for them. Right, that voicemail box is tied to that user. You can choose to include them in the user directory. You can change that at any time. Send emails to an alternate address. So if the system needs to communicate with the user, it will do so via email, and it will default to using the email address used for login. This is for things like voicemail notifications or password resets. If you don't want emails to go to the email address used for login, then you would click on this here, right? Because you're sending it to a different address, and then you put in that different email address in this box. And then lastly, send credentials to the user, right? It sends them the welcome email, welcome to your Dash account, and gives them their login information. So I normally say, put a check mark here. If you're only creating one user, right, that's easy. Click on create user. If you have to add multiple, create user and add another. Once a user is created, you can click on their name. You can change their name. Here is where you would change their credentials. So you can change their email address or password. You can also send them the password reset email yourself. Here's where you change their voicemail box PIN number. Here's to send to an alternate address. Here's the option to be in the user directory. This pull down allows you to change a user into an admin. This allows you to adjust the time zone that the user is in, right? So that way their voicemail timestamps are correct, for example. The ringing timeout by default is 20 seconds. In Aaron's case, it's grayed out because he's making use of the user feature follow me. So that is taking precedence. 20 seconds is plenty of time to send calls to a landline or a VoIP phone. If you have a user who's only using a cell phone, you want to increase this to 30 seconds, possibly as high as 45. It simply just takes longer to route a call to a cell phone than it does a landline. Extension box, right? Users should automatically have one extension. You can add multiple if you want them to. Users can have their own phone numbers, right? So you can always buy numbers or add from spare. Just like in groups, this phone number is available 24/7, right? Does not have hours of operation. So I see there's a cell phone here on Aaron. That means if a call comes in on this 323 phone number at 2 a.m., Aaron's cell phone is going to ring. So here we have the device box, and let's go here. Right, you can add from spare, meaning you're reusing a device or a new device, right? SIP phone and cell phone, we've already taken a look at. Soft phone. So just like under devices, it starts off as saying you can only add a third-party device once it loads here. Here we go. So this looks like just as we added a soft phone on the device page, right? This is the same kind of format, except down here, it says use third-party application, right down here towards the bottom. If you click on that, it'll flip it to say use VirtualPBX application. So now you just need to give it a name, and then you would click on create device, and then you would click save changes. Once you click save changes here, in this case, Ariel would get an email saying, hey, your VirtualPBX soft phone is ready. Here's your login information for use with the VirtualPBX soft phone. Right. So their Dash login information and their VirtualPBX soft phone login information are going to be completely different. Right. So it's possible they have at least two logins. Right. They have one for sure, just log into the Dash account. But if you're making use of the VirtualPBX soft phone, that's a second login. Whereas the web phone uses their Dash login. Right, so here, new device, web phone is easy, right? You just give it a name, click on create device, and then click on save changes. Then they can go to webphone.virtualpbx.net, use their Dash login information, and use Chrome or Firefox on their computer to make and receive calls. All right, user features, caller ID number only works for users that have their own phone number. Turn it on, you select one of their phone numbers, you click on save changes. When you do that, the phone number you select becomes their outbound caller ID whenever they make an outbound call on their VoIP phone instead of your main number. Right? So that's advantageous, say, for your sales staff when they're calling prospects. That means they'll call back the number they saw, most likely, and that way it goes directly to the salesperson versus having to go through your general system. Virtual text is a new feature. This allows your staff members to make use of texting. You turn it on, you select a phone number on the account. This is typically a number, or this is a number that's either a main number, an auto attendant number, or a number on the user. You click on Save Changes. When you do that, your user gets an email welcoming them to Virtual Text. They can then download the Virtual Text app to their phone, or on their browser, they can go to virtualtext.app.app, log in there, and make use of that interface. So when you add a user, if you add the VirtualPBX soft phone and you add Virtual Text, they can have 3 different logins. The main advantage of Virtual Text is it allows you to share numbers among your staff members. So that means you get multiple people watching over text to and from, say, your main number, for example. Voicemail box, by default, this is turned on for your new users. This is a fairly standard setup. I believe transcription is still a plan-specific feature, and what it does is the system listens to the voicemail and types it out for you, right? Now, by default, we have the attach voicemail message to email. So what happens is, user gets a voicemail message. The system then sends them an email. In the body of the email has the date, the time, phone numbers involved, the extension number. And then it has an MP3 attachment that they can click on and listen to the voicemail message. If you have transcription available and enabled, then the system listens to the voicemail and types it out to the best of its ability. Right? If people are not speaking into their microphone properly, or their microphone picked up a lot of background noise, that's going to impact the quality of that transcription. Voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they're full and cannot accept any more. By default, your staff members can check voicemail messages in 3 ways. They can call in over the phone and access their voicemail box over the phone, and they can delete messages there or that way. There's also the user portal, right? The web interface. They can log in. It'll default them to their voicemail tab so they can listen to their messages and delete them there. And then lastly, the system will automatically, or by default, sends them an email with their voicemail attached. However, the system will not delete the voicemail from the system. Right, so that's how it's possible your staff members can have a full voicemail box. Now, you do have the option here to delete the message from the database after the system sends out that voicemail notification email. However, that limits your staff members to only being able to check voicemail via email, because now there'll be no way for them to check over the phone or via the user interface because the voicemail message has already been deleted. Follow Me is for users with multiple devices. When you first look at it, enable it, it looks like this. Basically, you have to tell the system which devices do you want to ring. When you uncheck it, it actually starts them off at 0 seconds, like so. Right, so then you can click and drag these sliders to adjust the time. You can click and drag the order, distribute. You have a time. So this is just like groups. Right? And you just click on Save Changes. Fax box. Users can have their own fax boxes if you want them to. Not required. In fact, most people probably go with just the main fax box number. You have the option here to add a new number or use a spare number or assign a new extension number. I always recommend making use of a phone number. That way your staff member has the ability to send and receive faxes. If you choose an extension number, that means this person can only ever receive faxes. They'll never be able to fax out as long as the fax box is set up this way. And that's because when they try to fax out, the system will try to use that extension number as the outbound caller ID, and that's going to fail. The other concern with using an extension number is not like electronic fax services may not be able to fax to an extension number. Or if they do, they might charge the person faxing you extra for that. And even on an analog fax machine, right? Some people just may not know how to do that, whether it's because they don't think to listen in and then enter the extension number after the main greeting, or they don't know how to set up the phone number when they type it in with pauses after the initial number to enter the extension number. Conference bridge, you can choose to have a user moderate a conference by clicking enable. Then you only need to set up a conference room PIN number and then click on save changes. The enable video conferencing is just for your staff. Right? Anyone outside of the system will not be able to make use of it. Call forwarding, you have off, on, or failover mode. Your staff members can turn call forwarding off or on their own. They don't need you to do that. They can do that on the user portal, or they can even do it directly from their VoIP phone via feature codes. Failover mode is something you have to set up as an admin. You click on failover mode, and then you choose a mobile or desk phone, then put +1 area code and phone number. No spaces, dashes, or parentheses. Click on save changes. What failover mode means is if the user's VoIP phone goes offline, right, becomes unregistered, and a call comes in the user at that time, the system will automatically forward that call to the phone number you designated here. Customize call recording. When you first enable it, it looks like this. Right? You need to tell the system what kind of calls you want recorded. Inbound internal is a coworker call, right? So coworker Bob called Aaron. Right? Inbound external, customer Mary called Aaron. Right? Outbound internal would be Aaron calling coworker Bob. Whereas outbound external is Aaron calling customer Mary. And then you would click on save changes. Now, your account includes at least some amount of storage as part of your monthly plan price. If you go over that, it's a per gigabyte overage fee, right? We don't just cut you off mid-recording. For specifics of that, if you just signed up, I would double check the pricing page. If you have an older account, you'd want to check with our account services team. Right. Music on hold, you can have your users have their own hold music if you want them to. You just enable it, right? Upload a file from your device, mp3.wave recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Click upload arrow and then click save changes. Right, do not disturb. You're not taking calls, or this user is not taking calls. Hot desking is a VoIP phone feature. When you click enable, you give them a hot desk ID. You can choose to require a PIN or not. You click on save changes. So Aaron comes into the office on Tuesday. He sits down at desk number 2. He picks up the VoIP phone there. He hits *11. That turns on hot desking on that phone. The system will prompt him for his hot desk ID number. He enters that and then tells him now that calls will now be sent to this device. So the rest of his workday, right, calls that are coming to him will ring on the phone that he's sitting at. End of his day, he picks up the phone, hits *12 to turn off hot desking on that phone. Next time he comes in the office, Angela's sitting at desk number 2. He says good morning. He's down at desk number 5. Same thing. Picks up the phone, *11, enters hot desk ID. Now calls are coming to him at desk number 5. Voicemail boxes shows all your voicemail boxes on the account. If there's an entry here in this third column, that means it was the voicemail box created with the user. You can click on add voicemail box up here. This would be, for instance, if you want to create a voicemail box for one of your groups or ACD queues. You give it a name, right? You give it a voicemail box number, and then a PIN number. You click on create new voicemail box. After a voicemail box is created, under advanced, greeting media, you can upload an MP3 or .wave file recorded in mono. You'd want to do one under media, right? That's the default message that plays. If you select something under temporary, or upload something under temporary, the temporary file will play, right? It will supersede the media file, right? This is for your out of office or vacation message. And then once you send temporary back to none, then the media file will play normally. Recipients, your user voicemail boxes already have a built-in recipient, right? The email address used for login. If you want to add additional recipients, or if you created manually created a voicemail box, you want to click on add new recipient, enter the email address. If you only need to add one, then you just click on save changes. If you need to add multiple, right, keep clicking the add button for each email address you want to add. And then when you're done, click on save changes. Then options. So once you have a media file in place and then a recipient in place, right, you can click on the box for already set up, and then you can verify attach messages to email, and or if you want the delete notification or delete after notification is sent options. Advanced routing, this is for direct inward system access, or DISA. Now, this feature is not enabled on new accounts when they sign up. It's something you have to speak to our account services team about. But DISA allows you to call into your system from a cell phone or a landline, log in over the phone, and then make an outbound call through the system. And so it's not your cell phone number that shows up, but rather your main company number. So once the services team has enabled this on your account, you would come here and you click enable, and the system's going to generate a PIN number for you. Here's the PIN number. Now, if you leave it just like this, then you need to set up a menu option under your virtual receptionist or one of your auto attendants. So that way you have main DISA as a menu option, right? So then you would enter that menu option. The system would prompt you for the PIN. You can make an outbound call. That's not recommended because someone might accidentally hit your menu option by accident and then take it as a challenge to figure out what the PIN number is. And once they do, they make outbound calls on your account and you won't know about it right away. So click on Edit Settings and then click here where it says Add Extension. Give it an extension number. And I say, given an extension number, your series that you're not typically going to be using. Click on Save Changes. So now, when you call in, right, you enter in the extension number, then the PIN number. Then you'll hear dial tone, so then you can make an outbound call. And again, it won't be your phone number that shows up. It's going to be this phone number that shows up as the outbound caller ID. Now, the reason this isn't enabled by default on new accounts is that if someone figures it out, they can make outbound calls on your account and run up your bill. One way to figure that out, though, ahead of time is via your call logs. The call logs will show your call history. And if we go click on this month, for example. Now, you can always download these right here. And I'll download a CSV file. So if you're good with spreadsheets, you can gain a lot of information about your call history. But here, for example, you have a green arrow to the right is a call coming in. A yellow arrow to the left is a call going out from the system. Right, so here I can see Aaron made a call out from his soft phone to this phone number here. And then likewise, let's see if we can find a good inbound call. Here we can see a call came in and rang to this device. You have a little fire hydrant icon down here. Allows you to report a call. What that means is it'll create an email for you that's addressed to support@virtualpbx.com. It will have the technical information about the call. I would strongly encourage you to type in the context, right? Why you're sending this information into our support team so they understand why you're sending the email in. You have the custom tab here, so you can set your custom date range. Right. The system will allow you to go back up to 1 year. Our engineers can go back up to a total of 18 months. After that, we're not able to recover the data. If you need your call log information for compliance reasons, then I would encourage you to do this every month. And it's possible if you have heavy call volume, you might have to go week by week versus 1 month at a time. Feature codes. These are various dial pad shortcuts for your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phones. This information is a web page on our support pages. There's also a document called the Phone Commands Cheat Sheet, which has the feature codes as well as this contextual help. Right, so gives your staff members a better idea how to make use of the feature codes. And the things like parking and retrieving actually have their own separate document for that as well. All right, so that's all the dashboard. Next up, we have blacklists. This is an included feature. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you are blocking from reaching your system. You start by clicking Edit Blacklists, and you would click Add to create a new list. Otherwise, you would click on an existing list, give it a name. You can choose if you're blocking anonymous. So that means if a caller comes in and is not displaying proper inbound caller ID, if you turn this on, you're blocking them from reaching your system. All right? If you leave it off, that means they're allowed through. Beyond that, you click on Add Number. You put +1 area code and phone number, no parentheses, dashes, or spaces, and you keep clicking Add more phone numbers until you're done. Then once you're done, you click Save. Then up here at the top right, you click Back to Settings, and then you make sure your list is over here on the right under Selected, and then you click Update. Now every phone number on these lists, when they try to call any of my phone numbers, they get a busy tone. Faxes is your fax box manager. This is an included feature. You can get to any fax box on your account. You can see the fax history. So I'm in the inbound fax tab. So I see back on the 30th, we got a fax, and on the 2nd, I can see the phone numbers involved, the number of pages. I can download the file. I can also choose to delete a file if I want to. And now it's gone. The outbound fax tab, again, I can select the fax box I want to work with. I'll see the history here, again, on the 28th and on the 2nd. Phone numbers involved, number of pages. I can even download the files here. I can choose to delete them. If you see a failure here, you want to mouse over the word fail or failure. It might give you additional information about why the fax failed. If you see failures here, this means we had a problem communicating with the other fax machine. Whether that's because it was a busy tone every time we tried, or it did connect, but then something interrupted, right? Like someone picked up the handset on the other end. What else? Oh, so then under the email to fax logs, if you see entries here, this is where the system had a problem with the request, right? So we didn't even try to reach the other fax number. You can see the email addresses involved and the format of the email that was sent out. So you see a couple here without the +1 in front of it. That probably had an impact. But you can click the little eyeball icon here to the far right. And then you see here, this person doesn't have a fax box, right? Because they had a Gmail address, and my outbound permissions don't allow for Gmail. Whereas if I click on this one down here, it says no valid attachments, right? So that could be they didn't add an attachment, or they had the wrong kind of attachment. All right, number manager, this basically takes you back to your spare numbers page. Reports, this actually takes you to reports.virtualpbx.com. This is a plan-specific feature. It's our advanced reporting feature. This allows you to create your own reports. If you go to our YouTube channel, under videos, do a search for advanced reporting demo, and that will show you how to make use of the reports, or what can be done with the reports. Unfortunately, it does not show up properly here under the streaming software. And then if you're interested in the reports and you don't have access to them, then you would want to speak to our account services team. Voicemail Manager, an included feature. Lets you get to any voicemail box on the account. You can then see any messages they have. I don't know that we have a lot of voicemail messages on this system. Oh, here you go. So you see new messages, the date, the time, you get where the call came from, phone numbers. You can play back the message, you can download it. As an admin, you can click on it and you can move it to a different voicemail box. Oops. So I can move it here, for instance. So now Ariel's only has one. But then here you can see the message that was just moved. All right, oops. ACD queues. ACD stands for automatic call distribution. This is a plan-specific feature. Or sorry, this is an upgrade feature off of existing plans. We currently offer two kinds of queues, the standard queues, which you're seeing here, and the ACD queues Pro. Accounts can only have one or the other. They cannot have both, so I can only show you the one. However, under our YouTube channel, you can see the ACD queues Pro demo, which will show you the basic differences between these two. Now, this is a call center feature, so it's possible you may need to update your plan, and then you have to have an upgrade fee for each queue you add to the account. So that's something you'd have to want to talk to our account services team about. You can click on Add New Queue, but for our purposes here, I'm just going to click on the little gear icon here. So first up, you give the queue a name, and then you choose a phone number or an extension number. Right? So this is what people enter. This is how people would access the queue. Right. This isn't on top of being like a menu option, right? But this would also be how your staff members would transfer calls to the queue, whether it's by phone number or an extension number. The queue routing strategy, unfortunately, the pull down will not work here, but you have round robin, which will equalize out over time. You have most idle, whoever's been waiting the longest. Least calls, which is the least amount of connected queue calls. And then least offered, which is a combination of missed or completed calls. Hold treatment, you can have a media file play. You can upload .wave.mp3. If for queues, you can actually upload a 5 megabyte file. Now, queue timeout measured in seconds is how much your inbound callers can wait on hold, or how long they can wait on hold. The queue call limit is how many people can wait on hold. So I'm saying I can have 4 people wait on hold. This is on top of calls that are already speaking to staff members. Right? So if Bob and Mary are handling 2 calls, 4 more people can wait on hold. Timeout immediately if empty. If this is enabled, that means if I have no staff members logged into the queue and a call comes in, the system will treat that inbound caller as if they've already hit the queue timeout. Right, that 40 seconds. Escalation call flow after timeout is after that 40 seconds is hit, where am I sending the calls? Right, this is a pull down, so you can select voicemail boxes, users, another queue, main menu, a group, etc. Zero out call flow. If you select something in the pull down here, you're enabling the ability for your inbound caller to press 0 while they wait on hold to leave the queue. So that means the pull down, you have to select where they're going. Now, this does not play a message to the inbound caller. Right? That was something you'd have to include in like your hold music. Agent recovery time measured in seconds. This is time after an agent is completed with a queue call before the system offers them a second call from the queue. Usually somewhere between 0 and 30 seconds. Force away on reject or missed. This means if an agent misses a call, the system will mark them away, and the agent has to mark themselves ready in order to take a call again. And then agent connect timeout measured in seconds. The default is 20. Queues were originally designed to only work with VoIP phones, although a couple months ago we added the ability for users to accept calls on cell phones or landlines. Something I forgot to mention earlier, when calls go to a cell phone or landline, right, those people are not able to transfer the call from their cell phone or landline to someone else. Right, the call will end there. That's the advantage of making use of a VoIP phone. They can transfer calls to somewhere else. So if you have staff members making use of cell phones in the queue, you'd want to increase this to 30 seconds or possibly longer. All right, once you have added queues, over here on the left, you click on the little members icon. Now, when you just sign up with this page will have no information. It'll just have the manage members icon. But this list of people here, these are the people who are available to be assigned to a queue. It doesn't mean they are assigned to a queue, it just means they could be. But then I click manage members. Now that list now is moved over to the right, right? These are my call center members. And these are my other users, right? So they're not available to be in a queue, right? They have no way to join a queue at this point. But I, for instance, can click on their name and then click add as a member. And so now, John, oops. Right, so now I have 14 over here. Likewise, if I want to remove people, right, I can click on them. And then click remove. Now, I'm not removing them from being available to be assigned to queues. I'm just, oh, wait, actually, yes, correct. Once I remove them here, they're no longer available to be in any queue. Then once I've determined who's going to be among my members to be in my queues, I click back here on the queues icon. I click on a queue, especially one that doesn't have anyone signed in. I can click add agents, so I can assign staff members to be in the queue. Now I already have 9 people here, so that's plenty. But you would click and drag people to the right. Once you've assigned agents, then from the list of agents, you can choose to make some members managers, assuming it will load. I'm not sure why it's taking this long. All right. So once you have agents assigned, they will, when they log in, right, they'll have the option here to come to ACD queues. They would click on begin session. So we'll come here. And you see I'm logged in. Now, especially that first time they log in, or if they have a change to their devices, they should click on the little phone icon here and select the specific device they want to use. Right? By default, it starts them on select all. You want to get off of that. So select the specific device, then click on the phone icon, and then mark themselves as ready once they're able to take calls. So now if a call comes into this queue, it will be offered to me, right? Because I'm the only ready agent here. When I'm on a call, my little bar on the left here turns to a dark blue. If my bar is yellow, that means I'm on an external call. So that means someone called my extension number directly, or I made an outbound call to call customer back. The pro queues, they have a third icon here, which is performance, so it allows the managers to compare agents to each other. The pro queues also have the ability for managers to eavesdrop on a call, right? Whisper to their agent, right, to help the agent out, or barge in, basically start speaking to both the agent and the customer. As far as your staff members go, like when they're on break or they go to lunch, right, they should mark themselves away. And then at the end of the day, they can end their session. That's the advantage for users that queues have over groups, right? Agents, your staff members have more control about, being available for calls and not being available, as well as being able to get out of the queue when they're done. Dynamic caller ID, this is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phones. Just click edit on an existing rule. So you give it a name, and then you choose from this pull down the caller ID you want to display, right? So one of the numbers on your account. And then you choose typically either a feature code or a specific area code. So in this case, I'm saying whenever my staff members dial a 408 area code phone number, the system will automatically change their outbound caller ID to this 408 number here. Now, this other rule I have here, I am instead saying my staff members need to dial *550 first, then the area code and phone number they're reaching out to. When they do that, the system will change their outbound caller ID to 323, right? Or this 323 phone number. And the idea here is that you're making it look like a local call to whoever you're calling. Monitor, another plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of your other staff members, right? Whether they're on calls, inbound or outbound, etc. Doesn't matter what device they're using. Right? So you can choose between employees or devices, right? Whether who's available, who's busy, or everything. Active inbound calls. Each active inbound call will have a little box so you can see who they're speaking to. If there's any parked calls, there will be a parking spot number next to each person so you know what the parking spot number is. Recording Manager, by default, this will open up a new tab and take you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. That uses your Dash login so you can view your call recordings. If you're making use of AWS storage for your call recordings, this will instead open up the interface with AWS. So you can view your recordings there. Webhooks, this is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to link your Dash account to other software. You'd actually want to speak to our sales team about this if you're interested. You can also go to our YouTube channel and look for the introduction to Zapier webinar, which covers webhooks, because Zapier, being another service, is one of the primary examples we use in terms of linking Dash to other services. This is programming. So like most of our support team, this is beyond their capability of giving you help on if there's a problem with the webhook, right? So that's something that the support team would have to escalate up to our engineers to probably help you out with. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code of what we have done in terms of linking Dash to other software. And then lastly, the user portal. Every user has their own user portal that they have access to. It starts them off on the voicemail tab so they can listen to their voicemail messages, right? They can put a little playback icon. They can download it. And then when they click the little check mark, they can choose its status, right? So they can get it deleted. The call history tab, they can see their call history and choose the date range. Faxes, this only works for users that have their own fax box, but then they can see their fax history. The contact list, this is everything within your Dash account, right? Your staff members can't edit this list. This is a view only. It's basically to help people, transfer calls to other users, etc. Conference tab. Over here on the right is where your users would adjust their conference room PIN numbers, both for themselves, right, moderator, or for their staff members or the other people who are joining their conference. They also have the option to have people join muted or deafened, or play entry and exit tones. When they're in a conference, little plus icon that will allow them to invite other Dash users to their conference. You can lock a conference, mute everybody, unmute everybody, or end the conference call. Also, while on a conference, each person has their own little box. So you can mute a specific participant, for example, or kick them out. And then we have the Settings and Devices tab. Right here is where your staff members enable call forwarding on their own. They just put a little check mark here, put +1 area code and phone number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses, and then they click on Save. And that is everything. So I do apologize for the late start today, and obviously running almost to over an hour and a half here. As I mentioned before, there'll be no training session next Tuesday, just because of the holiday week, but we will return after the new year. I thank you for your time today and have a wonderful day.